Module 6. How your desires can fascinate him. Key lesson: show him how he can win. What if I told you that you can present your desires to him in such a way that they trigger his drive to be a provider? Wouldn't that be a good thing? It's possible, and here's how you do it. You have a vision in your mind regarding what your ideal future life would be like. Unlike his ideal vision, it has more to do with relationships, the people you spend time with, and the cute home you live in. His vision assumes those kinds of things but does not focus on them. He wouldn't be happy without beautiful relationships, but his instincts tell him he will have to wait and focus on those things only after he has become a successful provider. So his vision is dominated by strategies and goals for achieving career success as well as a certain level of independence and freedom. But here's why he is driven by those things. At a subconscious level, he believes they would validate him as a man so that he could then enjoy relationships as someone who has succeeded. It's like an unwritten code of manliness that he must always win. Testosterone causes the male mind to be obsessed with hierarchy and competition. It doesn't really make sense, but his instincts caution him against accepting a role in which he feels he is unlikely to win at gaining your approval. So if he believes you would suddenly need more of his time and attention in order to approve of him in a role like boyfriend, husband, or father, he will decline to accept that role. And it's not because he does not love you. You may wonder why committing to a deeper relationship or marriage is so hard when the two of you spend the majority of your evenings together anyway. He already has a job and he's not dating anyone else. Again, it comes down to the different perspective he has as a man. He sees a commitment as something he must win at. If he's not sure he can win, he will avoid commitment. That way he can always back away and say he never promised anything. So what's the solution? In a nutshell, it's this. Show him how he can win. If you show him a vision of the future that clicks with his need to win at gaining your approval, you can stretch his manly instincts to include more of the things you want from the relationship. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. R. Buckminster Fuller. The secret to becoming his obsession. So far, I've laid out this simple truth. He is obsessed with finding a purpose at which he feels he can win. He wants a relationship with you, but not if it means feeling like a failure or slowing down his drive to accomplish something. But what I'm going to tell you next will completely transform your experience with men. I'm going to show you how to start from nothing and gradually fuse his manly instincts with the very things that will make his relationship with you take off. I'm going to teach you a 5-step process. We'll start with the last step, and that's because the last step is the goal, the end point we are aiming for. Understanding the goal will make it easier to understand the steps involved in reaching that goal. Step 5 represents the goal we are trying to achieve. Here it is. Show him that he does not have to choose between you and the adventurous life pursuits his instincts call him to chase after. That's it in a nutshell. However, as you might have guessed, achieving that end goal requires a bit of finesse and inside knowledge about how the male brain works. So let me share a few things about how men think. Then I'll show you a method you can use to shape his behavior. Using these deceptively simple steps can make all the difference between wishing for an incredible relationship and actually having one. Also, please remember this. You can go through this course material as many times as you need. There's no rush. Mastering the secrets of an incredible relationship is worth some time and investment. These relationship skills will serve you for the rest of your life. And that's because understanding his hero instinct will be like a key that opens new worlds for you to explore in your relationships. So it's okay if you need to go through this course several times. It will be worth it. But let's get back to the 5 steps for transforming your man into the romantic who can't stop thinking about you. We'll start with the end goal. Your goal is to show him he does not have to choose between a relationship with you and achieving the sense of meaningful purpose he is driven to go after. How do you tap into those drives? The answer is that you start very small. Then, you gradually build on your progress. To show you how this works, I'm going to reference a section of training I did on communication with men. This section explains the concept of starting with nothing and gradually building a new pattern that you can reinforce over time. How to shape his behavior. Orcas, also known as killer whales, do occasionally leap out of the water in their natural habitat in the wild. However, it is not natural for orcas to leap out of the water to jump over ropes when a human gives them the signal to do so. Nonetheless, behavioral conditioning allows us to teach the orcas to do just that. In the next few paragraphs, you will learn how to teach your man to do something that is not natural for men in the wild. We will examine the exact technique used to train an orca at SeaWorld so you can use that technique to make your man a better communicator. Some people say orcas are smart, but they can't talk and they are too heavy to shove. So how do you train them to jump over a rope 20 feet above their pool so the crowds of people can cheer in awe? The answer is behavioral conditioning. Behavioral conditioning is nothing more than offering small rewards to gradually shape behavior. The orca likes to eat fish. His trainer tosses him a fish to reward behavior that is somewhat close to the behavior the trainer ultimately wants the orca to perform on cue. They start by putting a cord along the bottom of the swim tank. Whenever the orca swims over it, the trainer tosses him a fish. It doesn't take long before the orca makes the connection and realizes he can get a fish anytime he wants by swimming back and forth over the cord at the bottom of his swimming tank. Once that behavior is firmly established, the trainer raises the cord so it is about halfway up in the depth of the water in the swim tank. When the orca wants a fish, he swims back and forth, sometimes over and sometimes under the cord. The trainer only throws him a fish when he swims over the cord. Pretty soon, the orca has learned to swim over the cord rather than under it. At this point, the trainer begins to use hand gestures and only throws in a fish when the orca swims over the cord within a few seconds after the hand gesture. The trainer then gradually raises the cord until it is at the surface of the water. It doesn't take long for the orca to realize he has to jump out of the water and over the cord in order to get the fish. At this point, the task of training the orca is simply about slowly raising the height of the cord and reinforcing the hand gesture that means he can get a fish by jumping over it. When I was in college, I had a psychology professor that told us a story about a mouse he trained to play basketball. His method was simple behavioral conditioning. He used pellets of food as reward for the rat and gradually used behavioral conditioning to shape the rat's behavior. He did this until the rat learned to push a small ball across his cage, pick it up with his front paws, and then dunk it in his miniature basketball hoop. The good news is that men are a tad smarter than whales and rats. The bad news is that you can't control their food intake as a reward. However, you can use something that has been found to be just as effective. I'm talking about a sudden increase in affection and attention whenever he engages in the type of communication that you are trying to condition him for. Remember, you start with the small and natural things he does right. Just like with the orca, you start throwing him a fish when he simply swims across the cord at the bottom of his tank. You have to set the bar low and begin reinforcing his behavior for things he is already doing anyway. In real life, you might start by taking his hand and becoming more cheerful when he tells you something good or bad about his day at work. Or you might kiss him on the lips and tell him how close you feel with him after he shares 2 minutes of random thoughts with you. Gradually, you save your reinforcing attention and affection for higher levels of intimate communication. This may sound too simple to be true, but it does work. Hundreds and hundreds of psychological research studies have been conducted to examine the powerful effects of behavioral conditioning on humans. Even though we have very powerful capabilities for higher reasoning, we still respond to basic reinforcement, mostly unconsciously. How would you summarize the content I just shared with you in this section? If you had to put it in your own words, what would you say? Here's my attempt at summarizing it in a condensed form. If you can tap into an instinct that is already there, like the orca's motivation to get food, you can gradually connect that basic instinct to a new habit or behavior. And if I wanted to be a little more thorough, I would add the following. It doesn't matter if he never currently engages in the new behavior we desire, because we can use shaping to refine the behavior we want to see. Is it a good idea to tell your man you're going to use behavioral conditioning to tap into his instincts? No. Obviously, it's not something you talk about. Rather, it's something you do, and in its doing form, you'll find there could be nothing more natural. The truth is, we influence each other all the time through behavioral conditioning and shaping, but we almost never tap into the most potent instinctual drives of our partner when doing so. And we rarely stick with it long enough to achieve the truly incredible results I'm teaching you how to achieve now. A simple example is the use of nonverbal posturing in an established relationship. For example, a woman who is doing housework makes a point of vacuuming the space right around her husband's feet as he sits on the couch reading a newspaper. She is sending the message, "I'm the only one cleaning." This is an example of negative reinforcement. With negative reinforcement, you stop doing something annoying to reinforce the behavior you want. In this case, the husband has learned that if he gets up and helps her clean, she will leave him alone. If he does not, her posturing will become increasingly intrusive until an argument breaks out. And by the way, that's an example of very short-sighted behavioral conditioning. Positive reinforcement is always better for a romantic relationship. Using negative reinforcement can get quick results, but it gradually drains the joy out of a relationship. In case you're confused about the terminology, punishment is always about stopping a behavior while reinforcement is always about encouraging a behavior. These are technical terms you don't necessarily need to understand, but I include them here for those of you who like to truly master a concept before putting it to use. The killer whale gets reinforcement in the form of a fish. What kind of positive reinforcement can you toss your man when he moves in the right direction? The answer is appreciation. Demonstrating appreciation is the easiest way to throw your man a fish. It's a reward that feeds his need to feel useful. Remember, he wants to be your hero. When you let him have that role, he'll work harder to make you happy and feel more satisfied in the relationship too. Appreciation pays off. Expressing appreciation to your partner cuts the rate of separation in half a few months later. It's the little things, everyday gratitude as a booster shot for romantic relationships. Sarah B. Algo, Shelley E. Gable, and Natalia C. Meisel in Personal Relationships, Volume 17, Number 2, June 2010. Putting the concept to work. Your man has a powerful instinctual drive to go after meaning and purpose. He wants to feel potent, powerful, and effective. He's not ready for a relationship with you until he feels like he has made a lot of headway in achieving success, which is defined differently depending on whether he's in the knight, prince, or king phase. When he's a knight, success means living it up and exploring the world because there's so much to see. When he's a prince, success means feeling that he is winning at building something meaningful. When he's a king, success means the opportunity to focus on the few things he has decided are truly meaningful in his life while also sharing from the bounty of his success. In each phase, he is driven by the desire to feel that he is winning at something meaningful that gives his life purpose. We are going to tap into this instinct for meaningful purpose. We are going to connect that drive to his relationship with you. We are going to shape his responses to you so that he can experience firsthand the fact that you can be his partner in this life, starting now, rather than someone who gets the leftovers of his attention only after he has achieved his life mission. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to use his desire to be your hero. Use his desire to be your hero. He will chase after the provider role whether or not you are in his life. The secret is channeling his efforts to be a provider in such a way that those desires get met, at least in part, in through his relationship with you. In so doing, you tie his happiness to your own life. This makes it harder for him to emotionally cope with the idea of leaving you. It also enriches his life in a way that makes him feel happy and fulfilled. It's a true win-win situation. Now let's look at an example of this concept put into action. Connect his provider instinct to his relationship with you. One of the problems many women have come up against when dating a man occurs when her partner starts to see her as too needy or smothering. Depending on his phase of life, this can accidentally trigger his instinct to distance himself from you. If that's so, how can I possibly say you should find ways for him to be a provider for you? Won't that just make him run for the hills by making you seem needy? No, he won't run for the hills, and I'll tell you why. Channeling his desire to be a provider has nothing to do with being needy. To make a clear distinction, allow me to define some of the ways men might perceive their romantic partner as being needy. Then we'll contrast these examples with the real goal we are going after. Examples from men who perceived their girlfriend as being needy. She won't let me hang out with my guy friends, or if she does, she gives me the cold shoulder when I get back. If I don't reply to her text within 15 minutes, she asks me what's wrong. If I say nothing, I was just busy, she accuses me of being distant, and it usually turns into a fight after that. She wants to sit at home and cuddle on the couch while we watch her favorite TV shows. Anytime I suggest we hang out with a group of friends, she says we haven't had enough just us time. Now contrast those examples with the following examples of providing a channel for him to be a provider for you in very small ways. You might think of these as fascination phrases. Each of these phrases work like a signal. They are signals picked up by his male provider instinct. They change the way he sees you. We'll talk about more meaningful examples in a minute, but take a look at these examples first. I need to borrow your manly muscles for a minute. Will you open this jar for me? I know it's my car, but I don't like driving in the city. Do you mind driving? My friends and I have to leave. And actually, do you mind walking me out to my car? There's a creepy guy just standing out there by himself, leaning against my car. It's probably nothing, but I'd just feel safer if you came with us. These are examples of very simple opportunities to trigger his provider instinct. Guys absolutely love these opportunities. They love these opportunities way more than they would ever let on. But if you are highly tuned into nonverbal communication, you may have already noticed this on your own. I'm talking about the way you can tell a man is exceptionally pleased with himself after a woman asks him for this kind of assistance. The reason these opportunities please him so much is simple. You have just given him social validation as a provider. You have shown him that you notice his ability to provide, and that has a much more powerful emotional impact than you would expect. It's as if someone has just said, "You know that person you always wished you could be? Well, that's who you are." The biggest mistake when inviting him into a provider role. Many women give their man the opportunity to become a provider in the same way they would rely on a close female friend. That is, they expect him to provide by being her sounding board for venting frustrations about unfolding relationship drama. Now, I'm not saying there's no place for that in a long-term committed relationship between a man and a woman. What I am saying is this is no substitute for the kind of opportunities I want you to present to your man so he can fill a provider role. The reason is simple. He doesn't recognize emotional support as providing. Yes, I know it actually is one of the things you most want from any close relationship, and hopefully he will recognize the importance of connecting with you in that way. However, you should not expect that form of emotional connection to fulfill his need to find meaning through providing. Okay, let's take a break for a quick review. The 5 steps that will transform your man. These are the actions that will cause you to be at the heart of his passionate purpose. Number 1, give him micro opportunities to meet your needs and make you happy. Number 2, actually show the appreciation you feel when he works toward your happiness. This makes him feel like he is winning in his relationship with you. Number 3, gradually build on the momentum of success he experiences with each of the opportunities you give him to win at making you happy. Number 4, help him gain more clarity about who he is and what he really wants in his relationship with you. Number 5, show him that he does not have to choose between you and the adventure of pursuing the life he truly desires.